When someone first told me about the new Alien film coming out, I realised something. I didn't actually care. I felt no excitement, no joy, I didn't even feel anger or worry. My reaction was that of pure disinterest. And this is coming from someone who considers the first two films as masterpieces. Well, the fact of the matter is that Hollywood these days is flooded with a cumbersome amount of unoriginality. I made a post on my Facebook page highlighting the large amount of unoriginal films coming out this year. I had over 20 films in this list, and you know what? I could have added more. In fact, I reached a point where I realised the list was just too damn long and I had to stop listing films. When you look at the films of 2017, an extraordinary amount are either sequels, prequels, remakes or reboots, and adaptations. It's hard to find an original idea at all, and I'm not going to act like the earlier days of cinema were free from sequels, far from it, but I think the capacity of sequels has expanded enormously, and I put this down to a few things. Number 1, Marvel. Marvel has somehow managed to dominate modern cinema ever since it began producing the current films in 2008. By this point in the 90s, superhero fatigue had begun to set in, but in 2017, we're still going strong. It's not that I dislike Marvel films as such, but their cinematic universe is such a giant gluttonous beast that keeps growing and growing without ever stopping. It seems that gradually every obscure character will be plucked out of Marvel history and given their own film or TV adaptation. I'm sure it's great for fans who want to see all these characters and references made on screen, but for the average person who doesn't read comic books, it doesn't add anything to the film or make it any better. It was around the time the Age of Ultron released that I realised I honestly didn't really care. Iron Man was good, the other films were okay, the Avengers was fun, but aside from that, I didn't care what old character came back or what obscure reference they made next. However, one of the biggest insults for me is the fact that the quality of all of Marvel's films never falls below serviceable. When a movie is bad, you often have equally as much to talk about as when a movie is good. When a movie is just okay or fine, what does that really leave the viewer with? Iron Man was great, and Iron Man's probably one of their best films. Thor 2 was okay. What actually happened in that film? I remember there's some big sticks outside a church, and then Christopher Eccleston played a northern alien.
Lots of planets have a north.
When you're serviceable, you risk a fate worse than bad, being forgettable. I wouldn't be able to hum the theme for any Marvel movie. All these films just feel so processed and designed by studio. They're films, yes, but where's that unique element that actually makes them feel like an artistic creation? And I don't mean an artsy drama, I mean a film with genuine craft and effort put into it. And now of course every major company wants their own slice of the cinematic universe cake. DC wants theirs, Fox has X-Men, Sony desperately failed, and even Star Wars is riding upon the bandwagon. Oh. And speaking of Star Wars, right now I feel like Hollywood is going through a midlife crisis. It's like they're looking back at their old films from the 80s and 90s and saying, man, weren't our films great then? People loved those films. We really knew how to make films back then. I know, let's make a bunch of sequels and reboots to cash in on it. So of course now we have Star Wars, Jurassic World, Alien Covenant, Terminator Genesis, which I could seriously make a whole video on, Power Rangers, Ghostbusters, Trainspotting 2, Baywatch, and Blade Runner 2049. Films that will make people say, hey, this is stuff I know. I liked this stuff when it came out. The biggest guilty culprit right now seems to be Disney and their live action retellings of classic fairy tales. Hey, remember those films you watched as a kid in the 90s? Well now they're back and they're darker and grittier, cause you're older now and you like things to be darker. Regardless of whether or not the Disney originals were totally faithful to the stories, there's still absolutely no reason for these remakes to exist, especially not by the exact same company. If it were a different studio with a completely different vision behind them, then I could sort of accept it, but they used the exact same designs, so it's literally watching the film, but without the charming animation. And now, darker. Beauty and the Beast, Sleeping Beauty, The Jungle Book, Cinderella, Lion King, Mulan. I'm just gonna check, is there a Lion King? Lion King remake. Is there actually a Lion King remake? Yep, 2019. How many live action reimaginings are there? Disney. Fucking Aladdin too? Oh my god, there's so much. Wait. Mulan, The Lion King, Dumbo? No, really? Aladdin, Christopher Robin. I mean, what you mean Winnie the Pooh? Okay. Oliver Twist. I mean, to be honest, the Oliver. Oh, what the dog version? Oh God, James and the Giant Peach. Wait, James and the Giant. Okay, James. Cruella Tink. Peter Pan. Who the fuck is Tinkerbell? Why would you call it Tink? Why would you call it Tink? Peter Pan, The Little Mermaid, The Sword in the Stone. Are they? This isn't. They're not actually. Are they actually remaking all of these? Because that's like all of their films. Seriously? With the folks... Oh, God, this is... Christ. Oh, right. No, this is shit. This is really shit. With the abundance of sequels and reboots coming out, not to mention them generally being pretty mediocre, it's not hard to see why a new Alien film would have such little impact on me. We've been spoilt by so many retreads in recent times that nothing feels special anymore. Whilst I'm not denying that sequels were made in the 80s and 90s, you can't deny that it was a much more balanced range. The 80s gave us films like The Terminator, Back to the Future, The Goonies, RoboCop, Gremlins, Blade Runner, Top Gun, Ghostbusters, Indiana Jones, Die Hard and Beetlejuice. So many amazing films of which many have become hollow husks in the form of franchises. You especially can't deny that many of these successful films took a long time to release any sequel at all. And yet the current nostalgic fueled state of the industry basically begs that every modern classic receives a sequel or a reboot. And so there you have it, my opinions and thoughts on the current state of Hollywood and the film industry. All I can say is it's a damn shame, and I just wish we'd do something new for once. And I guess leave a comment about anything or something. I'm supposed to say stuff like that. I don't really know. Subscribe. In-Betweeners Part 3 coming May 4th, 2016. Then I'm going to do an In-Betweeners expanded universe where I compare the films to the other films, and it's films within films. I'm going to do a review of the In-Betweeners Taiwanese edition, which probably exists. And that's gonna come out in May 4th, 2022, with Tim Burton as the director and Steven Spielberg. He's going to be writing it. So yeah, really check in. I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm going to kill myself. Fuck.